Hey everybody, I hope you all are doing well and welcome back to Michael's Matters. Now, as has become the custom, I am Michael, and today, as millions of Americans across America, in fact, an expected 168 million, maybe give or take a few million, start to submit their taxes, comes the biggest question of all, which is when will you get your tax refund? Because undoubtedly, you want to know, your spouse probably wants to know, your children probably know, and mattress sellers probably down the street, those folks who see a big jump in sales during tax return season, they want to know too. Man, that Sealy Posturepedic, it's got my name on it. Anyway, so today we are going to talk about when you can expect to get your tax refund and why the IRS is already trying to do damage control to prepare Americans for a smaller tax refund this year. Now, this is Michael's Matters, and before we get to it, if you like these videos, if you find them interesting, if you find them helpful, hey, you know what? If you find them useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way, you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. All right, now, let's get down to the video. So let's start off today with the main question for right now, which is when will you get your tax refund? And really, what it's going to come down to is three different variables. First, when did you file your taxes? Second, how did you file your taxes? And third, did you get extra tax credits for things like the earned income tax credit or the child tax credit this year? Now, although there is not a specific calendar yet from when refunds will come out, the IRS estimates the vast majority, in fact, 90% of people who file their taxes digitally will get their refunds within 21 days of filing them. Moreover, the IRS is really starting off this tax season on a much stronger footing as they have cleared most of the massive paper tax return backlog of taxes that they had accumulated last year. In fact, to be exact, starting in 2022, they had a backlog of 4.7 million tax refunds. I mean, they had paper tax returns basically stacked up all over the place, even in the lunchrooms. But they have worked that down now to 2.5 million today. Now, even though the IRS does not put up a calendar for when tax refunds should be refunded, which is pretty smart coming from an organization that had 2.5 million backlog tax returns, I'll put up an estimated calendar for tax refunds right here, and just bear in mind, if there are any issues, if there are any errors or child tax credits or earned income tax credits, these dates could be further delayed regardless of when you submit them. Also remember that for those who are able to file electronically and get refunds directly paid in their bank accounts via direct deposit, those folks will get their refunds faster and before basically everybody else. So if you are one of the early birds who files your taxes on the very first day that you are able to, that is January 23rd, then your estimated refund should be sent out via direct deposit on February 3rd, or a week later on February 10th for those who are getting a paper check sent out to them, so they don't have a direct deposit set up. Now, if you filed on January 30th, then that day moves out to February 10th for direct deposit or February 17th for paper checks. February 6th filings will get theirs on February 17th for direct deposit or February 24th for paper checks. And February 13th filings should expect their refunds on February 24th for direct deposit or March 3rd for paper checks. February 20th, they should get theirs on March 3rd direct deposit or March 10th on paper. February 27th filings will have direct deposit on March 10th or on paper checks March 17th. And if you file on March 6th, then you should be getting your direct deposit tax refund March 17th or March 24th if you're getting it on a paper check. Now, if you filed on March 13th, then you should expect a direct deposit refund on March 24th or April 1st if it's on paper. March 20th would be March 31st for direct deposit or April 7th on paper, and March 27th filers should be able to get their tax refund on April 7th for direct deposit or April 14th on paper. Now, of course, these are dates for the early birds, but as you get into peak seasons, these times start to run a little bit later. But that's just a note. April 3rd filing would be April 14th direct deposit and April 21st for paper checks, while filing on April 10th would be refunded on April 21st direct deposit and April 28th for paper checks. April 17th filers should see a direct deposit by April 28th or on a paper check that is mailed out by May 5th. Now, also remember that the deadline to file for most tax filers is going to be April 18th. But if you live in a state that was affected by winter storms, like here in California or perhaps in Alabama or Georgia, you actually will have until May 15th to file your regular, personal, individual, or company taxes. So let's talk a little bit about why people who have those extra tax credits, like child tax credits or earned income tax credits, might take a little bit longer to get their refunds this year. Now, this is primarily due to the fact that the IRS will not even start processing any of those kinds of returns until mid-February, so about 2 weeks from now, even if you submitted them on day one. Additionally, these refunds may take additional time to complete from the IRS side because they're going to try to minimize the amount of fraudulent claims to those tax credits this time around, and also because some of the rules have reverted back to their pre-pandemic rules that their IRS is going to have to sort out for all those folks who submitted them under those 2021 pandemic rules because they thought they were still in existence, but are now no longer. So that stuff is going to take a lot more time and a lot more resources. All right, so now that we know approximately when tax returns could potentially come out once they are filed, let's talk about why the IRS is already trying to send out notifications to the public that it's likely that tax refunds will be smaller this year than last year. This will be a big hit to many of those mid to low income Americans who rely on their tax refunds to give them a little boost financially, whether they spend it responsibly or not. Now, the main reason that tax filers will see smaller returns this year is actually pretty simple. It's that much of the pandemic era tax credits and stimulus checks, they had expired and made their last payouts in 2021, or they have been reduced back to their pre-pandemic assistance level for 2022. So that's for this tax filing year. So let's look at an example. First, if you look at the earned income tax credit for those individuals who qualified without children for the EITC, it's going to go back down to $560 from its pandemic high of $1,500. Another big one is going to be the child tax credit, or the CTC as it's called. It allows families making up to $150,000 a year collect $3,000 per child older than 6 years old and up to $3,600 per child younger than 6 years old. Now, with the American Rescue Plan funding no longer available, it's basically run out, both for children 6 and older and younger, that amount will now go back down to its pre-pandemic level of $2,000 per child. Lastly, the dependent care tax credit that got a big boost during the pandemic is going to dip back down to its pre-pandemic level of $2,100 instead of the $8,000 that it could have been used to claim in 2021. So really, it is quite easy to see that many of the families who benefited from these extra credits, and really probably one of the main factors why the U.S. savings rate went so high over these last few years, and maybe is the result of some of the inflation that we are having now, but these families are going to have to readjust back to tax refunds that are no longer reflecting the increased assistance that the federal government had been offering during the pandemic to help low-income families through the last couple of years. Now, overall, looking at this tax season, it is kind of good to see that things seem to be getting back to normal after the last couple of years of wackiness. That, coupled with President Biden ending the pandemic as of May officially, also means that much of the support that has always been needed by American families, let's be clear, they always need this help, but was only received under the guise of the pandemic, is going to be ending. And although this is probably not best, the one saving grace is that the labor market right now is booming. For the time being, workers have more leverage now over their employers than they have had in decades. And wages are rising really at an astonishing rate. So even though this funding is being put back to pre-pandemic level, there is a labor environment that could mean many folks will be able to find good paying jobs to keep things going without the extra support. Yes, it would be better to have the extra support and have the good jobs, but that's not the way things are working out. All right, so that's it for today's Michael's Matters, and I hope that you enjoyed this video, or at least found it interesting or helpful, or even maybe useful. And if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. So for Michael's Matters, I'm Michael, hoping that you take care of yourself, take care of others, and have a happy, healthy day.